Let's go. We're in Isaiah, chapter 40. Catherine leaned over and whispered, "Are we still in Isaiah?" And I tried to interpret that in the best light possible. But yes, we're still in Isaiah. We're at chapter 40, and I promised you something really good if you'd hang on through the blood and guts of the early part of Isaiah, which we've made it through relatively unscathed. We're at chapter 40 is like the major division in the book of Isaiah. And what you find beginning in Isaiah chapter 40 and following is what has led many to believe there's more than one author, because I've read Isaiah and this don't sound like Isaiah. It's got a remarkably different tone. It's in a remarkably different voice. And it's talking about remarkably different subjects than we saw in Isaiah 1 through 39. And we'll say just this about the historical piece in Isaiah and higher criticism about authorship, is I will say that yes, each of the Old Testament prophets had a school of prophets that surrounded them, like you were devotees of a particular spiritual teacher and prophet would have, like a lot of people, a lot of disciples. Like you have Jesus and the disciples. That's not a Jesus innovation. That's kind of the way that things worked in the ancient world. Someone who was spiritual would people would gravitate toward that person. It was the same with the prophets. And out of that school of prophets, probably a lot of writing happened, and maybe some of what we have in our 66 books is actually by the pen of someone else. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because we believe that the Scripture is inspired by God, meaning that what's supposed to be here is here. And our responsibility as people in life now is to look at it and try to see what's there for us. I see Isaiah chapter 40, and it makes me pretty excited. And it makes me almost excited enough to say this: you should have a relationship with the 40th chapter of Isaiah. Now, I know that sounds a little odd, because usually relationships go better with other people, right? But a relationship with a chapter from the Bible? Isaiah chapter 40 it's like the Grand Canyon of chapters of the Bible. It's like the Mount Everest of mountains of the book of Isaiah. It's grand. It's interstellar. It's spectacular. And it speaks to us about the nature of God, which is rather important, and it speaks to our condition, also very important. Isaiah chapter 40 takes those two things and places them together. My messy life and God's big in-controlledness meet in Isaiah chapter 40, and it's a very happy wedding of sorts. Isaiah chapter 40, the burden becomes different. It's not that so much of what we've seen heretofore in Isaiah has been like, tell the people they're bad, tell the people they're selfish, tell the people they've forgotten me, tell the people they don't care about the things that I don't care about anymore. And all right, we've got it. We're bad. Chapter 40 takes a markedly different tone. And it says, verse 1, comfort. Some scholars call Isaiah chapters 40 through 66 the book of comfort. It's like that. It's like getting beat up and whipped and reminded of your sin for 39 chapters.
Nice.
And then walking into chapter 40 is like a nice warm blanket, like a blanket that's just out of the dryer. You put that around you and you just feel like enveloped in God's love. That's the experience of this Older Testament prophet. That's why we've taken so many weeks pushing our way through the preliminaries in order to get to this, because this is amazing. That's why I want you to know Isaiah chapter 40 in a way that is deep and intimate. I want you to live in the comfort of God. Verse 2, here's God coaching the prophet, like lesson number 2 in prophet school. Don't be mean anymore. Verse 2, speak tenderly to Jerusalem. Cry to her that she has served her term, that she's paid her penalty, that she's received from the Lord's hand double for all of her sins. And then just like that, we've turned the corner into the love of God, and that's where we want to live and just unpack our backpack and dump it out and set up camp, because I want to live here in this experience of God. That's what I'm after. What you need and what I need and what the world needs. More than anything, what do we need? We need hope. I need hope that my situation is not always going to suck as much as it sucks right now. That things are going to get better. That my life is going to open up in the future in new and beautiful, wonderful ways. That things are going to get better for me. That I'm going to experience progress and growth and a level of contentedness that I've never had. And we're just like, yeah, some of that and a little more of that. That's what I want. That's hope. And that's what I want for you more than anything else. Suffering is temporary. Suffering is optional. We can choose to live in God's hope, and we can choose our way into living the experience of life with God in ways that we haven't figured out yet. That's hope. Hope is it's better down the road. Hope is not only it's going to change, it's going to change for the better. Hope is recognizing that my best days are yet to come. They're ahead of me. Life with God gets better than it is now. But you have to choose that. You can't just wait for that to happen of its own. And if you're accustomed to seeing what's wrong with life, you're going to continue to see what's wrong with life. That's just the way the world works. But we can be a people who choose hope based on the character of God and our growing experience of that. And there's this, the end of the chapter just kind of ties it real neatly. And I don't want you to think you're off the hook for all of chapter 40. You're not. That's your job. Get it. Read Isaiah chapter 40. But we're just going to check in at the end. I just love it. It's poetic. Verse 25. And I want you to hear this as addressed to you in the midst of your struggle. It's to you on a bad day, okay? It's a bad day memo to you. And it says this. Oh, and it's from God. God wrote the memo. And here's what it says. To whom then will you compare me? Or who is my equal? Says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high and see. Who created these? Who brings out their host and numbers them, calling them all by name, because he is great in strength, mighty in power, not one of them is missing. Why do you say, Jacob? And why do you speak, Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and he strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord, they who hope in the Lord, shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Now do you see why you need this? Why this is so cool? God comes to us at our beleaguered and busted, broken situation and says, just wait for me. Everything will be fine. It's amazing. God invites us. Look up, look around, see you. This ecosystem in which you thrive. This life that you're living in every aspect of it, I made it just for you. But we're going to complain about it. We're going to find out what's wrong with it. And we're going to say, like they said in verse 27, that God has forgotten me. I'm suffering, alone, neglected. Yet when that switch flips for us, and we gain the capacity to see that it's God who's not only given us a chance to live this life, but is living this life through us. They that wait on the Lord, verse 31, renew their strength, will mount up with wings like eagles. Sometimes I'm tired, and I'm defeated, and I'm discouraged, and that's not how this life is meant to be lived. We're supposed to be living in the jet stream of the Spirit. And as we come to let go of the reins of whatever we think we're controlling by our much effort, and it's like the prophet says, look, even these young people that run around with boundless energy, Wesley, they'll fall exhausted eventually.
Oh, yes.
Something to look forward to. And God never does, because the energy source is never depleted, because the energy source is God. And it's always there and always available, and we can tap into that consistently. That's what God wants for us, to live that way. To know, as we read through Isaiah chapter 40, and let me just give you one, verse 12, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand. I mean, the entire chapter's poetic brilliance. Spend some time there, you will not regret it. But the lesson is, I don't have to live life on my terms any longer. The struggle is over. I already lost. I only need to concede. And in conceding, let go. And in letting go, recognize that God has done just fine before I arrived on the scene. God's doing in my life and yours what only God can do, and our responsibility is to discern it, to see it, to recognize. This is God. That's what I want to be a part of. That's what I want to tap into. My energy level. The more birthdays I acquire seems to be directly proportional to the energy that I'm losing, that I used to have. I'll trade that in a second. Give me God's life. That's what I want to be dialed into. There's people that just sort of live in that place, practicing the presence of God. That's Isaiah 40, is recognizing. I can allow God to run this thing. How much better might our lives turn out if that were the case? It's thrilling vision. I love it. I hope you'll enjoy chapter 40. Take some time this week with it. Read your way into it. Pray your way into the experience of life with God in Isaiah chapter 40. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted, but they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. God, your vision for our lives through the prophet Isaiah, the compassionate, wise, and insightful spiritual leader and teacher who saw Jesus before Jesus was. We thank you and we praise you in that name, the precious, the peerless, the matchless name of Christ.